DreAllDay.com.
You are now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative, which is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And we put all this together into one bundle, one package, one mindset, one method, one philosophy, one book, one show, one daily masterclass. Yes, you heard me, daily. That is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today we're going to talk. Today we're going to give a business tutorial. Yeah, that's what we're going to call this here today. We're going to give a business tutorial today to anyone out there who is planning to become a professional, full-time Instagrammer, TikToker, YouTuber. All right, if you are one of these people, you need to listen to this. If you are a parent and your child has floated the idea to you that they are thinking about doing this, then I want you to have them, you should listen to this with your child together. Let them hear it from me. You have probably thought about these things. Maybe you even told them these things, but mom, dad, they don't want to hear it from you. They got to hear it from an independent third party. So let me be the independent third party and let them listen to me. Okay, this is a very important conversation that needs to be had here because you don't want to find this out the hard way, which some people did. Because let me tell you why we're even talking about this. First of all, back in episode 1690, I told you the secret that the social media platforms don't want any of us to understand, whether you want to be a full-time TikToker, YouTuber, Instagrammer or not, or as they call them, creators. Or they call this the creator economy. These are people who are really, they're planting their flag and casting their lot to just creating content and the money that they can make off of creating content and basically building their careers off of doing this. Now, I want y'all to be clear and understand who you are listening to right now. I first got my name known on the internet through posting content, through being a creator before we were even calling it creators, before we were using the phrase social media, and I'm really dating myself right now. Before we even calling people influencers, I was creating content on the internet. Before you could even get ad revenue for posting stuff on the internet, I was posting stuff on the internet. But at the same time, I understood, and I think this context matters. At the same time, I understood when I first got into the YouTube, what they then called the partner program. Who knows what they call it now? Now, I don't even know what they call it anything. YouTube can basically monetize your videos. Even if you can't make money, they make money off of it because they're the bosses and they can do what they want. We're going to get into that as we get into this conversation. But I remember when I first got into the partner program, I know the little button that says the terms and conditions. I agree to the terms and conditions. I clicked on that terms and conditions and I actually read the contract. Now, how many of you, when you sign up for a website, read the contract? Now, I don't do it every website that I sign up for. I'm going to keep it real. Neither do you. But since this one was going to be, we were going to be making, there was money to be made here. They would make some and I would make some. I was curious. I wanted to know, like, all right, well, what the hell is actually going on here? So I actually read it. I printed it out. Just to tell you when this is probably around 2009. I printed out the entire contract. It's about 20 pages. I read through the whole thing. A lot of it was legalese, but I remember getting to the point where YouTube broke down, or Google, who owns YouTube, they broke down the money breakdown. And they said, all right, YouTube's going to keep 45% of the money. You keep 55% of the money. And it wasn't a negotiation. It wasn't ask. They were dictating. They were letting me know how much I was going to get and how much they were going to get. And it's not even that it's so much that it's bad how much they were going to take. It was just that I'm thinking to myself, well, damn, do I have a say in this? Like, what about if somebody has 100 subscribers and if somebody has 1 million subscribers? How are they both getting the same breakdown? That didn't make sense to me. But YouTube wasn't offering there was no discussion on it. And I thought to myself, you know what? It makes sense that there's no discussion because they're in control. They don't have to negotiate with anybody because where are you going to go? If you don't like the deal that YouTube is offering, what are you going to do? Who's the competitor that you're going to go to? You have no other options. And I said, okay, so they really have a monopoly on this here. So here's the thought that I had in my mind back in 2008, 2009. Yes, I'm going to put videos on YouTube still because there's a big audience here. There are a lot of eyeballs here. I can draw attention. But at the same time, this can't be my whole business. I can't build my whole life around putting videos on YouTube or even the ad revenue that I get from it, no matter how much it is, because at any point YouTube could just say, well, you know what, Dre, we're going to take more than 45%. Or you know what, Dre, we don't want you here anymore because look, we got 1 million people putting videos out. It ain't like they needed me. I needed them more than they needed me, especially if I was going to become a full-time YouTuber. I need YouTube much more than YouTube needs me. Look how many people YouTube has and look how many people I got. How many options do I have for posting my videos and making revenue from it? Only one. How many options does YouTube have for taking ad revenue from somebody posting videos? They have a million, all right? Each one of us is another option for them. So they had a lot more leverage in the situation than I did. And any of you who understands just human interaction and leverage and power understands the person who needs the other person less in any relationship controls that relationship. YouTube always had control. So I knew from the very beginning, yes, I'll use YouTube, but I can't let YouTube use me. So I will use them as best I can, but I need to have other things that I am in control of outside of just that. So with that context in place, let me tell you why I'm even having this conversation with you all here today on the heels of what we talked about in episode 1690. I was on Twitter and I saw this thread that the New York Times amplified. There was an article that was written in the New York Times by an author by the name of Taylor Lorenz. And Taylor wrote this article about, here's the title, Young Creators Are Burning Out and Breaking Down. And the image in the New York Times, here's the thing about the New York Times. I actually like the articles that they write, and they have a 1,000 different people who write for them. I like the articles that the New York Times does when they are not talking about race or politics. The articles they talk about that are not about race or politics are really well written. They come with good angles. They always write really good headlines. So any of you who wants to learn copywriting, you should follow the New York Times. Even if you don't read the articles or get the subscription, follow the New York Times. Just look at the headlines that they use. They are really good at writing copy. They are one of the best out there at writing headlines. They get your attention and get you to at least stop and think about what they said. Even if the article is about some shit that you don't even care about, you will pay attention because they're really good at writing headlines, as a side note. But anyway, Miss Lorenz did a whole Twitter thread by she took some samples out of her article and just put this whole thread up. And I responded to a lot of the tweets in the thread on my own quotes on Twitter. So what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna read through these things that Taylor Lorenz posted in her Twitter thread because it gives you a pretty good idea of what the article is about. So even if you don't go read the article, I suggest that you do, but if you don't, just through hearing what I'm going to read to you right now, you will get a really good idea of what she's saying. And this thread is actually what led to this episode that I'm going to give you here. So, and you need to understand this so that you understand what I'm going to say after. Okay, so now let's get into this thread. There were several tweets, maybe 10 of them. But these are tweets, 280 characters apiece. So first one, quote, this is from Taylor Lorenz of the New York Times on her article. Again, the title of the article is Young Creators Are Burning Out and Breaking Down. Another good thing New York Times is good at, as a side note, they put good artwork with any of their articles. So if you look at the artwork, the image that goes with this headline, it's a bunch of young people who look like, I guess these are the creators, and they're sitting around and it looks kind of drab and they look kind of sad and they look kind of forlorn and worn out. New York Times is genius at this. So props to the New York Times at this. They are very good. You want to learn copy and how to get the right images to go with your headlines, follow the New York Times. You will learn much more than any school teacher could ever teach you. So quote, Taylor Lorenz, throughout 2020, social platforms minted a new generation of young stars, and Silicon Valley finally embraced the creator industry. But young creators barely a year into the industry are breaking down and burning out en masse. Next tweet, quote, and this is Taylor Lorenz sharing quotes from certain creators who are just sharing their challenges with being creators. Quote, I feel like I'm tackling a keg that's been empty for a year. Here's another quote. I get to the point where I'm like, I have to make a video today, and I spend the entire day dreading the process. Another quote, I feel like I can become washed up any second by an algorithm, close quote. Those are some really powerful quotes. Keep those in mind. Let's move on to the next tweet in this thread by Taylor Lorenz. Here's another quote that I'm giving you here. A lot of older TikTokers don't post as much, and a lot of younger TikTokers have ducked off. They just stopped doing content. When creators try to speak out on being bullied or burned out, the comments all say, you're an influencer, get over it, close quote. Next tweet by Taylor Lorenz. And this is also a quote from a TikTok creator. This app used to be so fun, TikTok creator Shay Crow said in a video in February. And now your favorite creator is depressed, close quote. That video went viral and dozens of top creators flooded the comments. "Say it louder, bro," wrote one. "Mood," said another. Next tweet from Taylor Lorenz. 50 million people consider themselves creators, also known as influencers, and the industry is the fastest growing small business segment. I want you to keep that phrase in mind. Fastest growing small business segment. Keep that phrase in mind when we get into our points. They're calling creators and influencers small business. But while tech companies profit off the rise of the creator economy, creators themselves are churned out, used up, thrown away. This is a very powerful tweet, this one right here. Keep everything she said there in mind as we move into these points. I'll bring it back up for you just in case you don't. Next tweet, Taylor Lorenz, quote, "It almost feels like I'm getting a taste of celebrity, but it's never consistent, and as soon as you get it, it's gone, and you're constantly trying to get it back. It feels like I'm trying to capture this prize, but I don't know what the prize even is," close quote. Another powerful quote from the article. Now that's all of the thread that Taylor Lorenz posted, and this is all to promote her actual article. And again, you can go find that article on New York Times. The author's name is Taylor Lorenz, Lorenz. It's all about creators burning out through the creator economy, which now exists. And a lot of stuff in there really got my attention, especially, again, after I said what I said in episode 1690. So if you haven't listened to 1690, the title is "A Dirty Secret That Social Media Platforms Don't Want You to Know." Any episode that I reference here on this show will be listed down below in the show notes. So all you have to do is just scroll down. There'll be a link directly to it. You can go listen to it yourself at your convenience. Now, in that episode, 1690, I explained the business model of social media platforms and how they work on a fundamental level. And it baffles me and it concerns me how so many people, so many of us, use social media every single day, yet clearly so many people have no idea how these platforms work, why they work the way that they do, and what their goals are as opposed to what your goals may be. And they are not the same. And why does that matter? Because I told you a story earlier in this episode how I joined back in over 10 years ago what they call the YouTube Partner Program. I want you to understand something. If you are a partner with someone in any form of business, that means you and that person should have goals that are aligned in some way, shape, or form. YouTube, Instagram, TikTok's goals are not aligned with yours. You are not a partner when you are on YouTube, TikTok, or Instagram. They do not have the same goal that you have. And again, they don't need you nearly as much as you need them. They don't need you at all. There is no single creator on any platform, I don't care how many followers you have or you think you have, we're going to get to that in a minute, that they need you. If you disappeared, they'll still exist. What are you going to do? That's a question that you should keep in your mind. You should probably come up with an answer to if you consider yourself a creator or you're thinking about becoming a creator. And again, you parents out there, you have kids who want to get into this game, or they've been telling you that they want to. I'm not telling them that they shouldn't, and I'm going to get to that later on here today, but they need to know what game they're getting into. Just like if someone's going to play a sport, they need to know what they're getting into, or you're going to do anything else. You need to know what you're getting into. You're going to get in a relationship with somebody, you need to know who that person is, right? It's the same thing when you're going to be a creator. And the key to the reason I'm bringing up what I just brought up is that if you do not understand how these social media platforms work fundamentally and what their business model actually is, as opposed to your business model, if you don't understand this, what I'm going to tell you may go over your head. So now that I said that, again, episode 1690, the link's down below. Now let's get into what we're going to talk about here today. Point number one. Topic, once again, is if you want to be a professional Instagrammer, TikToker, or YouTuber, you need to listen to what I'm saying today. Number one, if you're going to get into one of these lines of work and be a professional creator / influencer, or on any platform, whether it's one that exists now or any other that comes along, here's the thing that you must always keep in mind. Okay? And parents, you're going to have to excuse me for my language, but listen, if your kids are professional creators, they're using this language anyway when you're not around. But I got to say it how it needs to be said. Okay, here it is. You don't own shit. And Nico, leave this space in there because I want to give people a moment to let this sink in. I'm gonna take a sip of my water while you really marinate on this phrase that I just said. Professional creators, influencers, you do not own a damn thing. Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, They own the platform. They own the land that you're working on. They own your access to, quote, your, close quote, audience, which is not actually yours. Delete your account and find out how many followers you actually have. You have 0. Your followers are not actually yours. Your audience is not yours. They can cut you off, they can cut you down, and they can cut you out whenever they feel like it. You have no power whatsoever if they don't want you to have any. Does any of you know, or maybe you have been a person who got your account deleted off of Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter? If you know anyone who that's happened to, ask them how many followers they actually had. All right, the answer is they never had any. They thought they had followers. No, you didn't have any followers. If they were your followers, but you got deleted off Twitter, then they would still be following you when you didn't have a Twitter account. But since you went from 30,000 to 0, how many followers did you actually have? None. Because those are Instagram's followers. Those are YouTube's followers. Those are Twitter followers. You have no followers. Okay? I don't care if you got a blue check, whatever you're doing on social media, how many comments you get per post, how many likes, you don't have anything. Those are theirs. Okay, you are a borrower, and they can get rid of you whenever they feel like it. If they want to cut you down, they can do that too. And what are you going to do about it? Not a damn thing, because you can't, because you have no power. All right, and this is something that every creator needs to understand. And hopefully I don't have to keep saying this. Understand that being a professional influencer or a professional creator is another thing you need to get. This is not a business. Taylor Lorenz, in her article, or at least in the clips that I just read to you from her Twitter thread, she said that this is the fastest growing small business. Being a professional influencer or creator is not a business. I'm going to repeat what I just said. I want to make sure you heard me. I'm going to explain why. Being a professional influencer or creator is not a business. All right, you are not an entrepreneur. Based on the definition of the word entrepreneur, you are not an entrepreneur when you are a professional creator. Let's get a definition of this word entrepreneur, so everybody's on the same page here. Definition: a person who organizes and operates a business or businesses taking on greater than normal financial risks in order to do so. Let me say it again. A person who organizes and operates a business or businesses taking on greater than normal financial risks in order to do so. The second half of that definition is important. First half is important as well. When you're a professional creator, what business did you organize? What business did you operate? None. All right, you're stepping into a business that is already organized and operated, called Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok. They did the organizing. Mark Zuckerberg did the organizing. Sergey and Larry did the organizing. All right, you didn't organize a damn thing. You just stepped into something that already existed. And what financial risk did you take on to be a TikToker? 0. It doesn't cost you any money to be a TikToker. You're not an entrepreneur. Right? And this matters for a specific reason that I'm going to get to. There's nothing wrong with not being an entrepreneur, but don't let somebody tell you, like Taylor Lorenz telling you that this is the fastest growing small business. That ain't no business. It is not a business to be a creator or an influencer. And it matters that we be clear on these definitions so that you actually know what kind of work you're actually doing. And people are kind of categorizing what this actually is. And that's why I got to be here to set the record straight. You are basically, when you're an influencer, creator, you're basically an employee. You're not technically an employee because you're not getting, tax withheld. You don't have any benefits or the possibility of getting benefits. You don't have a schedule. It's not like you have to clock in at a certain time or clock out at a certain time. You have to wear a uniform, things like that. But you are not an entrepreneur. So I guess we can call you a contractor, kind of, sort of. I don't even know what to call it. We'll just call it a creator. We'll just call it an influencer, but you're not an entrepreneur. Why? Because they can get rid of you. Or how are you an entrepreneur if somebody can fire you? You're not an entrepreneur if Facebook can shut down your account and now you can't reach your audience anymore. You're not an entrepreneur if Instagram can delete your account and now your 3.5 million followers are still on Instagram, but you ain't. All right, how are you an entrepreneur? Entrepreneur is the person in charge. Entrepreneur is the one who put up the money. And guess who put up the money? The person who can decide who stays and who goes. That would be Mr. Zuckerberg or Mr. Sergey and Larry. All right, they're in control. Everybody understand this? Good. Point number 2. Today's topic, once again, if you want to be a professional creator or influencer, you need to listen to what I'm saying here today. And let me be clear as to where I stand on all of this stuff. because I don't want anyone to think that I'm saying it is necessarily wrong to want to be a creator. I don't think so. And as I told you, I was a creator before we were calling them creators. I'm not saying it is wrong to pursue this career path. I'm not saying it's wrong to want to be a YouTuber or an Instagrammer or a TikToker or whatever you want to call it. All right, it's appealing. It's a very appealing job. My sister, Dre Baldwin Clark, who was on episode 721 of this show, a very good conversation we had. She texted me one day, probably about 2 years ago, and she told me that my niece, who is 13, 14 years old. At the time, she wasn't that old. She was maybe 10 or 11 at the time. But she said that my niece had decided, or she told her mother, who's my sister, that she wanted to be a YouTuber when she grew up. And that she noticed my YouTube channel and she saw what I was doing and stuff like that. So I'm not knocking anyone who wants to be a professional influencer or creator. It's a very appealing job from the outside looking in. You could do it from home. The only equipment you need is what you have already, which is a smartphone. We all have one. And all you need is your own creativity, imagination, and ingenuity. You could do it from your living room. You could become one of the most popular people on social media. That is a very appealing job. It doesn't seem like it's that hard to do, and it doesn't seem like there are zero barriers to entry at all. There are no barriers to entry to being a professional creator. So I get why so many people are jumping into the game. And I want y'all to understand something as a side note. This is what Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, they want you to notice that there are no barriers to entry. It is very easy to get in, and anybody can get into the game. So why do you think damn near everybody is on these platforms? Because they make it very easy for you to get in. This is the whole point. And again, not necessarily a bad thing. I'm on all these platforms. I'm not on TikTok, but I'm on everything else. So I'm not knocking these things from the outside like something's wrong with them. I use them myself, okay? I want everybody to be clear what I'm saying. It's easy to start. I understand all of this. Trust me 100%. I've been doing it before you. However, it's not as easy as it looks to sustain. And here's the most important point when we're talking business. You do not want your entire business career based around something that, as I explained in point number one, you don't even control. You don't have your hands on the levers. You don't determine whether you can stay or go. You don't determine whether something you posted is objectionable or not, or that your account should be deleted or not. You have no control over this stuff. They can delete you tomorrow and there's nothing you can do. There's nobody to appeal to. There's no phone number to call. There's no arbitration. You can't take them to court. They can do what they want with you or to you whenever they feel like it, and you have no say. How are you an entrepreneur if that's the situation? Simple answer, you're not. Why? Because you didn't put any money up. And again, nothing wrong with not being an entrepreneur. I know plenty of people who aren't. But let's make sure that we're calling a spade and putting things in the categories that they need to be in. Everybody with me so far? And I forgot to even say this yesterday, but I'll make sure I say it today. I have a text line where I want you to text me. Tell me what you got from this episode. Whether you agree, disagree, you got a follow-up question, anything. My number is 305-384-6894. Again, 305-384-6894. Continuing, you don't want your entire business career based around something that you don't control. What you need, if you want to call yourself an entrepreneur, what you need to do then is strategize how you can leverage your social media attention, your influencer, creator attention, your brand into something that you do actually own. All right, and this is something that I touched on at the beginning of this episode when I told you I read the contract when I first got involved with YouTube, and they said, well, we're going to split some money with you. I said, okay, money is good. I'll take the money. But then I said, okay, well, they're taking this percentage and they're doing this now. Well, how much control are they going to have in the future? So I thought to myself, okay, how can I leverage YouTube and then bring it into something I actually have control over? I can't base everything on YouTube. So what if they cut me off? What if they cut me down? What if I'm not popular anymore? What's going to happen then? This is something that I was thinking about in 2009. I didn't wait until the reality smacked me in the face to figure it out, but I'm giving you the game right now so the same thing doesn't happen to you. This happened to these people that Taylor Lorenz from the New York Times is writing about. So when I say when you actually own something, let me be clear on what I mean with that, because a lot of people throw these words around and don't really articulate it either because they can't or they don't know what they're talking about, but I want to make sure I'm making it clear. When I say own something, it doesn't mean that you need to build the next Microsoft or Apple. It doesn't mean you need to buy a building. What it means is something that you have 100% control over, and it doesn't matter what any platform does, you always have control over that thing. an email list. If you are online selling products or online putting your name and likeness out there, an email list is one of the most important things you can own. It is very simple to create, and anyone who sells things online owns an email list, or at least people who have any idea what they're doing and owning an email list, or somebody puts you on to what you need to be doing, you are thinking about, how can I start building my email list? Everyone needs an email list. If you are selling anything online, I don't care if it's just on Amazon, you need an email list. Why do you need an email list? Because it is a list of people who have given you permission to market to them, permission to sell to them, and permission to contact them directly, and that email list goes wherever you go. So even if you lose your Gmail account, you can still have your email list. Even if you stop using a certain platform, you stop using Kajabi and you start using the ClickFunnels and you start using WordPress, you always have your email list. Your email list belongs to you no matter where you go and how you use it. Okay, it always belongs to you. Or some people, you can call it a contact list, because it doesn't always have to be email addresses, but generally it's been email addresses. A contact list can be just a name of a person. I've talked about this before. Name of a person and a way to reach them. And the ways that we can reach people, usually through our phones, a phone number or an email address. Either one. Because nowadays now people even have text lists. I just told you about mine. 305-384-6894. Just a way to contact people and their permission to contact them. So you don't want to just have a bunch of email addresses of people who never heard of you. That's not useful. People who want to be contacted by you. And there are plenty of ways to build that list that we're not going to talk about here today. You can own, create, and sell your own products where the sale is direct to consumer. So for example, when I tell you to go to thirddaybook.com, claim your free copy of my book, The Third Day, anything that you purchase there, that's a direct to consumer conversation. It's going straight through me. You're not going through Amazon or through iBooks. You're going straight through me. And anything that comes up in that process, you can deal directly with me, directly with my team, and we'll make sure everything gets fixed. Now, I'm not saying anything's wrong with going through Amazon, because guess what? All my books are on Amazon as well. But we're going to offer you a better deal, and it's going direct to consumer, because we're making sure we are taking more control over the situation. Because what if Amazon decides they don't like me anymore? What if I say something they're not feeling, they decide to kick me off? Well, now I still got my power because I have something that I control. You understand? And this is very much as much a mindset as it is an action. Everyone understand what I'm saying here? Social media is a middleman between you and your audience. And again, social media is not a bad thing. It's just y'all have to understand the game that is being played. I utilize social media. I utilize posts. Today I just posted something on Instagram and I saw that it's getting good response. I haven't even looked at all the comments yet, but I saw that there were a significant number of comments. That's a good thing. But it's a middleman. I had to go through Instagram to post what I posted so that people could see it and people could say what they say. Now my job is, how do I cultivate that relationship and get some of these people at least off of going between the middleman and coming directly to me? How do I get some of these people on my text list or on my email list so that if Instagram decides they don't like me anymore, I can still talk to these people? Because what if Instagram just kicks me off? 90% of the people who are following me on Instagram won't have any idea where to find me or how to find me, because the only place they knew about me was through Instagram. So my hustle is, how do I get some of these people from in between the middleman and I can go directly to them? You get what I'm saying? This is your job if you want to be an entrepreneur. Even if you call yourself a creator right now. All right, this is what ownership looks like. This is what entrepreneurship is. Understand that what makes an entrepreneur is taking on a risk. If you are building your career on social media, there's no risk in that. There's no risk in posting some pictures to Instagram. You don't have to put anything up front. They did everything up front so that you could do whatever you want. That's why it's so easy to get into. That's why it's so popular. And that's why so many people see it as a potential career. And yes, it can be a career, but you don't control anything. Which means that career can be taken from under your feet in any minute. It's also why so many people get used up by these platforms and they realize that the game is not as easy as it looks from the outside looking in, which is exactly what many of these creators that Miss Lorenz on the New York Times was articulating in her Twitter thread. But that they're realizing, they're just chewing us up and spitting us out. They're just using us. They're making us chase. This algorithm is making me chase after something that I don't even know what it is. And as soon as I get close to it, it gets further away again. It's like the carrot and the stick. They keep making me run after this thing. And all I'm doing is creating content and feeding their platform while at the same time never getting close to the thing that I want. I want y'all to understand something. That's what these platforms are supposed to do. They're doing exactly what they were designed to do. Taylor Lorenz wrote this article in the New York Times as if something is wrong with the social media platforms. No, everything that was said in that Twitter thread that I read to y'all means they're doing, everything's working. That's what it means. If I'm Mark Zuckerberg or whoever runs TikTok or whoever runs whatever other platform, and I read that thread, I'm like, shit, all right, everything's working perfectly. And we got these creators out here running on the treadmill, feeding our platforms over and over and over again, day after day. We're making all the ad revenue off of it, giving them a few pennies of it on the back end. We don't care if any of them comes or goes, because there's always going to be another one to replace them. And they're complaining about how they can never get to the goal that they were after. All right, that's exactly what it's supposed to do. All right, everything's working perfectly. All right, let's go play golf. All right, everything is working perfect based on what those creators were saying in those quotes. Okay, this is not a mistake. There's nothing wrong with the social media platforms. What's wrong is that a lot of these quote unquote creators didn't get the business lesson, didn't get any business lessons before they jumped into the game. And that's why I'm trying to fill that gap. I'm trying to fill that void here today by giving you the business lesson that they missed. Point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is if you want to be a professional creator or influencer, you need to listen to what I'm saying here today. There was a comment in that Twitter thread where after the thread, there were, of course, people who left comments on the thread. And I saw a comment where someone said something along the lines of, they were like an advocate for creators. And they were saying that there should be a basic income for all creators. They were saying, yeah, since, Andrew Yang, who was in the presidential campaign, he had a campaign running for a little while before he dropped out in 2020. He was talking about a universal basic income for all Americans, and this person, this advocate for creators, was saying, well, there should be a basic income for all creators. If they're going to create, they should be able to have a basic income so that they are at least have their needs taken care of while they're doing all this creating. My response to that is bullshit. No, they should not have a basic income. First of all, if you're calling yourself an entrepreneur, you're saying what you're doing is a small business. All right, you're not guaranteed a damn thing. That's the whole point of being an entrepreneur, is that there is risk involved. That's entrepreneurship, is that you are taking on risk. If you don't want the risk and you want a universal basic income, all right, that comes with something. All right, there is no such thing, everyone, as something for nothing. My economics professor in college, I remember I took this class in the summertime. I took summer classes 1 year in college. He said the number one rule of economics, the only thing I remember from the class, there is no such thing as a free lunch. If you want to call yourself an entrepreneur and you say what you're doing is business, then you don't get guaranteed anything. You are guaranteed an opportunity. That's it, at least in the United States. So if you want a universal basic income, all right, now you're not an entrepreneur anymore. You're an employee. All right, that's what employees get. All right, we're going to give you this much money every 2 weeks. All right, that's how it works. Now, again, nothing wrong with either side. Nothing wrong with either side. I've been on both sides of this equation. But you got to know what game that you're in. What all these creators in this Mrs. Lorenz's story off the New York Times, what these creators actually need is not a basic income. What they actually need is a business lesson, which they are getting today in the form of this masterclass. They also need to understand how entrepreneurship works, which they clearly do not. They also need to understand how social media works, which they clearly do not. Need to understand how business works, which they clearly do not. And need to understand how money and power works, which they clearly do not. They are lacking information. They don't know what game that they're in. They think they're in one game, but they're actually in another game. The article is articulating that they're realizing they're hitting the wall. They're hitting the third day, realizing that this ain't the game that they thought they were in. And now the tone of the story was lamenting the situation. What they actually need to do is figure out what information they were ignorant of and fill those information gaps so they don't make the same mistake again. That's what actually needs to happen. But unfortunately, I think this article falls short on that. But that's where I come in. Anyone complaining about their status in the creator economy clearly wasn't paying attention in their college business courses, if they even took any. All right, that's the actual problem. So any of you who wants to be a creator, any of you parents who know someone who wants to be a creator, please forward them this masterclass so that they can understand what the game actually is, so that they understand where they're being used and where they're being leveraged and where they actually have power, which is in very few places, not in being a creator, and what they need to do to fill those gaps. Because you can use your status as a creator and get something positive out of it. Listen, you're listening to someone who has done so. But at the same time, you got to know the game that you're in. Because the game will use you if you allow it to use you. Let's recap today's class, which is if you want to be a professional creator or influencer on any platforms where these people seem to be flourishing and thriving, so to speak, listen to today's masterclass. First of all, go listen to episode 1690 if you have not already. If you don't remember what I said in 1690, go listen to it again. That is where I explain the business model of social media platforms and how they work, and how you are not a partner with any social media platform because your goals are not aligned. How are you going to be partners with somebody and they got two completely different goals? Makes no sense. Point number one, if you're a professional creator, here's the thing you must always keep in mind. You do not own a damn thing. All right, they own the platform, they own the land, they own the access. They can cut you off, cut you down, and cut you out whenever you please. So who are you? You're nobody. You are nothing but a pawn in their game, and the pawns go out of the game early. Any of you know how to play chess? All right, pawns, nobody cares about a pawn. They're insignificant. Creators are pawns to Instagram and TikTok and YouTube. You are nobody to them. Okay, I don't know if I can say that any stronger than I'm saying it. You have no power if they don't want you to have any. All right, this is not a business. You are not a small business owner. You are a worker. And they can delete you whenever they feel like it. All right, so who are you? Nobody. You understand? Point number two, let me be clear. I'm not saying that it's wrong to pursue this career path. I'm not saying it's wrong to utilize these platforms. I have done it. I've probably done it more than you and for longer than you. So I'm definitely not telling you not to do it. It's appealing. It can be done from home with just the equipment you have, a phone, some creativity, imagination, and ingenuity is easy to get into. I understand all of this, but it's not as easy as it looks from the outside. If you don't want your entire career based around just this, because of what I just told you, what you need to do is strategize. This is the crux right here. How do you leverage that attention? It's fine to get the attention. How can you leverage it into something that you do own, something that you do control? The most important thing you can control to start on a basic level is a contact list. Somebody's name, email address, phone number. At least an email address or phone number, one or the other, where they have given you permission to reach out to them and contact them with whatever it is that you want to share. That is where you can start with ownership. When you create and sell your own products on your own platforms, that is ownership. You can start with that very simply. If you are building your career on social media, you are not taking on any risk. Therefore, you are not an entrepreneur. Look up the definition of entrepreneurship. You are not an entrepreneur if you are not taking on risk. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, they had taken all the risk in building the platform. That's why they're the entrepreneur. You are nothing but the pawn, okay? Understand how these businesses work. Point number three, there was a comment in the Twitter thread where someone advocated that creators should get some basic income. That is bullshit. No, they should not. What they actually need is a basic business lesson so that they understand what the hell they're doing, because obviously they do not. This masterclass is giving them for them to understand how entrepreneurship, social media, business, money, and power work. They clearly do not understand how any of those things work, was how they ended up in that situation in the New York Times complaining about it when they don't even know that they're the ones being used. And the New York Times is using them too to get more clicks for their article, just as a point. Anyone complaining about their status in the creator economy clearly needs to take a business class and learn something, okay? And there's plenty of resources out there if you know where to look, but that's why I'm here. Dre All Day is here to help you figure this thing out. So again, any of you who want to be a creator, send me a text, 305-384-6894. Let me know if this has been useful to you. Did I open your eyes to something? Are you looking for ways to strategize? How can I now leverage the attention that I've created on social media so that I can actually be a business person, actually be an entrepreneur, instead of being told, listen, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram, they will tell you that you're an entrepreneur, tell you that you're a business owner because that makes you feel good, but you don't own a damn thing. They own you. And make sure you're not the one being used. I keep telling y'all so many episodes of this show that there are hustles going on all over the world, and there's nothing wrong with people hustling. I do not knock anybody's hustle. I just want to make sure you know what the hustle is so you are not the dummy getting played. Work on your game. Dre all day.